This is an amendment that should get support on both sides of the aisle. It deals with mandatory or forced arbitration. But even if you support arbitration, whenever the parties agree to it, even if it's snuck in a document that the consumer signs and you still support arbitration, you can't support arbitration the way Wells Fargo did it. Because it's one thing to say, okay, you open an account, you sign the paperwork, you sign the arbitration provision that's part of that paperwork, and you're bound by that arbitration with regard to the account you sign, that you opened up. But Wells Fargo said, you open up a checking account, you sign our document to open the checking account, and now if we fraudulently open a bunch of phony credit cards, arbitration applies there too. You didn't sign any of the credit card forms. And yet they say that you lose your day in court. That's simply outrageous. You didn't sign the arbitration provision with regard to the account that you didn't even know you had. Now, what happened at Wells Fargo? Over 1,534,000 false checking accounts. Over 365,443 false credit card accounts. These were not bookkeeping entries of little importance. Over 2 million serious felonies. 5,300 people fired. 2 million serious felonies, each involving a forgery, a wire fraud, bank fraud. Now, it's not just a $25 or $50 service charge that Wells Fargo was after. That's not the big money. The big money is on Wall Street, and that's why Stumpf testified here about how he was bragging to Wall Street investors, hey, we've now increased the portion of our checking account customers that have credit card accounts from 20% to 42%. And again on different dates at different times, he brags about his level of consumer penetration, drives up the value of his stock, not by $25 here or $50 there, but literally tens of billions of dollars. And the harm is not limited to the $25 or $50 fee here or there. We've heard from a particular consumer, they ran up a $1,300 fee. That was then sent to a collection agency, destroyed his credit, couldn't buy a house. He's still trying to untangle things. Now, arbitration isn't the solution, because if it's a $25 or $50 harm, how are you supposed to bring a separate lawsuit? I don't know any lawyers that will open a $25 file. And if it's a more sophisticated case involving the fact that you couldn't get a loan, your FICO score, I don't know any lawyer who's going to take that for $500 or $1,000 or $5,000 even. What you need is a class action. And I wouldn't mind it if it was a class action arbitration. But what Wells Fargo does is it prohibits any redress at all unless you can find a lawyer who will handle your individual case. Now, you'll be told, oh, well, Wells Fargo settled these matters. Yes, they did. But they used the Jabari versus Wells Fargo victory that they had in court to settle for a lot less. The lawyers involved knew that they could have their whole case thrown out because of arbitration. The next fraud is just around the corner. It may be a little smaller in scope. It's hard to offer to commit 2 million felonies involving 5,300 bank tellers and other employees that needed to be fired. But if we do not act now, we invite this abuse in the future. There's huge money to be made for any banking executive that can brag to Wall Street about how they took a bank with 1 million customers that had 1 million accounts, and now they've got 1 million customers with 3 million accounts, 4 million accounts. That's called successful marketing if it's legitimate, and it's called bank fraud if you do it the Wells Fargo way. So you can decide, is your dedication to binding arbitration so total that you believe it should apply in this kind of circumstance, or you can vote yes for the amendment. I yield back.
Time in the